Hi Noteboard Gamers, and welcome back to Noteboard Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now in today's video we're going to be looking at a Kickstarter preview for a game which comes to Kickstarter on the 6th of July. And that game is the wonderfully entitled Distilled, designed by Dave Beck with a solo mode by David Digby and published by Paverson Games. Now, there are obviously quite a few games regarding wine and winemaking out there, such as Vinos and Viticulture. And I love Vinos, I'm not so keen on Viticulture, but I don't really drink wine. As you can see from my kind of modest collection here, I'm very much a whiskey or a rum fan, and I have some Bunnahabhain, some Glenfiddich and some Aberlour here with me. I also have other stuff downstairs. So when I found out that there was a game coming out where you are going to be distilling spirits, I got really excited by this, and I reached out to Dave Beck, the designer of the game, and obviously imparted my passion on nice single malt whiskies. And Dave was kind enough to send me over a preview copy of Distilled, which, as I say, comes to Kickstarter on the 6th of July. The link will be in the description below. And what is Distilled? Well, it is a game where you are going to be running a distillery, and you're going to aim to make as many kind of different spirits, and hopefully more and more complex spirits as the game goes on, to achieve the maximum amount of victory points. You see, the game is a 1 to 4 player game. That's right, there is a solo mode, and I will be concentrating on the solo mode today. The aim of the game in multiplayer is to obviously have the most spirits and the right kind of spirits, so that you're getting more victory points than your opponents. And in the solo game, there is a solo deck down here with some solo objectives which detail exactly what score that you've got to get depending on what path you take up from those, and we'll look at that in a wee while. So let's talk about some of the components that you get with Distilled. Now, off the bat, I will say that this is obviously a preview copy and a prototype, so these are subject to change, but, and without blowing smoke up Dave's ass too much, this is one of the best produced prototypes I've ever had. It is absolutely fantastic. If these were the finished game components, you would be really, really happy with them. So, one by one, let's go through the various components. Over here, you have the scoreboard, and as you can see, it goes up to 100, and I'm sure you can get more than that. It's quite difficult, though. And the game is going to take place over 7 rounds, and you have these little barrel markers on there, and you're also going to have your individual little special recipe tag as well, and we'll come on to that. Next to that is the recipes board, and you can see that you have all of the various concoctions of spirits that you can make, from moonshine, vodka, right through to whiskey, brandy, rum, and others of names that are difficult to pronounce. There are also some cubes on here because you're going to open up various recipes, and those recipes are either going to be bronze, silver, or gold. And obviously, the gold ones create more victory points but are more complex to make. So you have to buy the cubes there. Then, over here we have the kind of premium market, if you like. And this is where you can buy certain items like premium bottles or barrels or certain casks, etc. And you're going to need those to make some of the more complex spirits. Then you have ingredients. And here are some of the premium ingredients. You have grain sugars, fruit sugars like grapes and sorghum and rice, etc. Then at the top, there are distillery upgrades, because you can increase the performance of your particular distillery by adding upgrades. And for example, let's take this card here, this worm tub, and as you can see, the artwork is absolutely cracking. This worm tub says during the distill phase, you're going to add 2 additional alcohol into your recipe, which is really, really useful. Then you have some alcohol and some flavour cards. Down here, you have the basic market, and you can buy 2 of these at any one turn, basically. You can buy from this market twice in any one turn. You have yeast, water, mixed grains, mixed plants, mixed fruits, clay barrels and wood barrels. You see, to make your drinks, you're going to need a combination of various things. That's going to be yeast, water and sugars. And those sugars come in the form of grain sugar, plant sugar or fruit sugar. Depending on which of those sugars you have and how many you have in your hand when you shuffle and start drawing them out, determines which concoction you can make. You can always make either moonshine or vodka. So if your recipe fails, you will either get a moonshine or a vodka out of that. That will score you some points, but not as many as the points that you've been going for. We have this fabulous recipe board here, and as you can see, there are a number of recipes you can always make, as I mentioned, vodka and moonshine. Then we have the bronze recipes here, we have the silver recipes, of which there are 3, and then we have the gold recipes, and of course they're more complex. But for example, a bronze recipe like Kachaka will score you 4 victory points if you make it. But a gold recipe like brandy, which has been aged, will score you 13 victory points if you can make it. So it's really worthwhile kind of building up to that. You have your player board down here, and you have your characters on the player board as well. And this is really, really good. So for this particular demo, I've got Joana Pere de Souza from Brazil here. And as you can see, she's a wonderful lady, and her signature recipe is going to be Caninha Cachaca, which is this here. And each character that you choose is going to have a signature recipe. I just want to talk about the characters before we talk about anything else, because I think what Dave has done here is shown that inclusivity can happen no matter what the game is, and it doesn't feel shoehorned in. We have a range of male, we have a range of female. There's also a character who doesn't identify as the gender that they were born. There are women, there are people of colour in there as well. None of it feels shoehorned in. They've all got a little backstory, and it makes perfect sense. And kudos to Dave Beck for managing to weave inclusivity into this. And I know he's even reached out even further and he's speaking to cultural consultants as well to make sure that he is covering the kind of whole range there. Absolutely fantastic. It would have been so easy to make this game just some middle-aged white Scottish people, and in reality the amount of variety in the characters you can choose is absolutely great. Then over here, for the solo game, we have the kind of solo pyramid as well, and you're going to work your way through these objectives, and they will get you points, or you will achieve points from when you get them, and then at the end, at the top of there, it tells you how many points you've got to have achieved your objective. So, as you can see, it lays out on the table. There's quite a lot there, and it looks complex, but the beauty of this game is it's not a difficult game to play. It's kind of an upper light to mid-weight Euro type game, and it's all the better for it. Not all Euros have to be crunchy and deep, massively deep. This has a lot of depth, a lot of strategic depth, a lot of planning that you can do, but it's all relatively easy to grasp. So what is Distilled then? Well, as you can see, first of all, we got this wonderful rule book, and it really is a great rule book. It only takes a read through here, and the solo rules are at the back as well. The game was designed by Dave Beck, the art and graphic design by Eric Evanson, of course, the solo mode by David Digby as well. It says here that Distilled is a spirited strategy game of crafting spirits in an up-and-coming distillery for 1 to 4 players. You have inherited an abandoned distillery from a distant relative, and you're now tasked with bringing your family's business back to its former glory. Over the course of 7 rounds, you will acquire ingredients, items, recipes, and upgrades to create the world's most renowned spirits. Whoever has the most spirits at the end of the game earns the title of Master Distiller. And that is the game. Over a period of 7 rounds, you are going to try and get the best kind of items, create the best kind of recipes, upgrade your distillery, which allows you to then craft and distill the world's finest spirits. And the more that you get in terms of the harder they are, then the more victory points that you're going to get. Now, there are a number of phases in each round. The first phase is the market phase. And what you're going to do is you're going to purchase either a card or a cube, so you buy these cubes as well from the markets, and then you're going to refresh. But in each round, you're going to only be limited to a maximum of 2 cards from the basic market in those rounds. And you're going to buy them using the coins that you're going to get from selling your spirits at the end of the game. Then you're going to go into the distill phase, and this is where you will use all the cards that you've got and the various things like the barrels and bottles, etc., to distill the right kind of spirits. You're going to place your cards from your distillery, you're going to make the spirit, place in a barrel, and then you're going to claim the relevant spirit label. So if you make the spirit, you're going to get one of these spirit labels. So say I've made gin, I'm going to get the gin, and then I'm going to put it in one of the 7 spaces on top of my board, and that closes that space off because there are bonuses there. For example, on one space I can either get 4 coins or a victory point. On another space I could say trade 1 card from the pantry for 1 card from the truck, or maybe I get a free recipe or 2 victory points, and you will use those spirits to do that. So those spirits earn you money, and of course for here gin earns me 7 victory points, whereas vodka would only earn me 2 victory points, but you also get the bonuses from placing them there as well. Then you're going to move into the sell phase. And this is where you're going to put your spirits within a bottle, and you're going to sell the spirits distilled this round, or from the warehouse where you've put them in for aging as well. And if it's got the right kind of label bonus on there, and there's certain label bonuses depending on regions, etc., then you could score points from that as well. And then finally, there's the aging phase. So if you've got spirits in your warehouse, and some spirits require to be aged, for example, something like whiskey, rum, or brandy, they require aging. The longer you put them in there, then you're going to start getting these flavour cards. And these flavour cards, if you're aging your spirits, will give you some bonuses at the end. For example, if I got this flavour card, which is cinnamon, and I eventually age my spirit correctly, and I sell it with this flavour card, I'm going to get an additional 2 points from that as well. And that's really, really good. So kind of developing your strategy to do that is going to be really key to maximising your points at the end of the game. Once you've gone through that, you've done all your actions there, you will then move on to the next round. And I'll say there are only 7 rounds, and it's surprising how quickly these rounds move. So without much further ado, let me show you a round of Distilled, the solo mode, designed by Dave Beck with a solo mode by David Digby. So here we can see I've got the game set up for the solo mode, and I'm just going to have to move the camera just to capture the full aspect of the game. Over here is my player board with my starting items set up. I explain that. Here's my recipe board. Here is the solo objective board, and as you can see, there are a number of different types of objectives. You have A objectives, B objectives, and then C objectives. And the aim of the game is to unlock these objectives, so you can move one of these objectives on this row, so I can move up onto the objective on the next row and continue doing that throughout the game. So the 2 C objectives in the solo game, I've got to achieve one of these. Is the first one is going to be collect 2 different spirit labels, and the other one is going to be to earn 8 victory points or sales points or more in a round. That will get me $3 and allow me to move up above. As you can see in this kind of pyramid, like double pyramid thing, if I complete that objective, I will flip those 2 objectives over, and that will then allow me to understand what my next objective is on the tier. If I complete that objective, I will flip those over. So if we look at this, maybe, if I wanted to complete this one, which says to collect 2 different spirit labels, up on the recipe board up here, we have all the various spirit labels. So I would have to do 2 or create 2 spirits to be able to do that. Okay, so we have the scoreboard up at the top, we have the recipe board, we have the market, the premium market, we have the basic market here, and we have my player board. If we look at my starting character, we've already said that this is Joana Peri de Souza from Brazil. She's got a special ability here, so I sell each non-aged spirit for 1 coin more, and that's really good. That means that most of the spirits aren't aged, and therefore when I sell them, I will get an additional on there. That's a bit of backstory, and it tells me what my starting resources are here. She starts with 4 coins and also 1 yeast. No water though, so she's going to need water. Her signature sugar is sugarcane juice, and her signature recipe is caninha cachaca. Over here then is her signature recipe, which is caninha cachaca, and we can only make this once, and I need 1 plant sugar and 1 sugarcane sugar, which is there. I have to put it in a metal barrel, and once I've made that, I will then get 11 victory points and 1 coin for it there. Okay, so there's one of these items here, one of these objectives here. Once I've made a spirit, I can then move my signature ingredient to the pantry. So to enable me to actually make that signature, I've got to make a spirit, put its tab on there, so I can move that to there. If one of those comes up in the premium market, though, I can buy it from there. Okay. So as I mentioned, the aim of the game over 7 rounds is to buy ingredients, is to upgrade your items and your distillery, buy recipes, and try and maximise the kind of spirits that you can make. So let's have a look at round number 1. So we start off, if we look here, it tells us that's the market phase. So I can make any number of turns that I can afford as a solo player in the market phase. All the time I've got to think about my solo objectives. You see, I cannot win the solo game unless I've cleared 1 objective in each of the 5 rows. And then what happens is I total up the number of points on the A objective, the number of points on the B objective. So say if I'd gone up this particular path and unearth these, I would have to score 86 points in total to win the game. If I don't get up there, if I don't unearth at least one objective on here, then I'm not going to win. So let's have a look at the market phase. I think, yes, I know I need to do potentially create 2 spirit labels. So what have we got over here then? I've got 4 coins to go with, and bear in mind I can make 2 purchases from the market. To make a drink, I need yeast, I need water, and I need sugars, but I also need a recipe as well. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to buy the Kashaka recipe here. So that is, that's going to, that's a bronze one there. So to buy bronze, if we look up here, it's going to cost me 2 coins. That's okay, so I'll put 2 coins back in there, and I will then, there we go, unlock my Kashaka recipe. I already know I've got yeast, so that can go in there. Then what I also need is water. Now if I look at this, it tells me that water is free, but bear in mind I'm going to get 2 from the basic market. And down here it says, when purchased, you may draw the top card of any market deck and choose to purchase it or return it to the bottom of the deck. So I know I kind of need a plant sugar. I know I can get them from there, but it's going to cost me a coin. But let's see if I can get a better plant sugar from the market itself. So let's have a look. Unearth the top card. It's a grain. If I wanted to buy that, that would cost me 4. I've only got 3 cards. That means I cannot purchase that. So that goes to the bottom of the pile there. So far, I've got my my water and my yeast, but I'm missing sugars to make the recipe. So I know I need to make this recipe. I need at least 1 sugar to come out when I do my distilling phase. So I'm going to buy a sugar from the market. So that's my second card bought from the market, and there we go. We've got a plant sugar. That's going to go there. That's going to cost me yet another coin. So it's cost me, so far it's cost me a coin to get my stuff from the market, and I've got 1 of each there. Now, if we look over here at the cards I've got, I've got yeast, I've got a sugar, I've got a water. I'm going to have to shuffle those in a second if I want to go through to this distill phase, and that will then allow me to then see if I've made the right ingredients to make Kashaka. However, for every sugar that I put in there, I also add an alcohol card into it. So there we go, there's an alcohol card, and that's going to go in there as well. That will make perfect sense in a second. Jumping ahead ever so slightly there, because I generally would add the alcohol card in the distill phase. So, if I'm finishing the market phase now, I have a look, is there anything else I can buy? So there's two coins left, but I've got to think about what coins I want for later and what recipes I potentially want to make later. Maybe I want to buy some sorghum for a wheat-based recipe, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend my 2 coins, and I'm going to buy a sorghum and put that into my pantry just there. I'll save that for a wee while later. I could include it in my hand right now, and that gives me more possibilities in terms of making the Kashaka, but I'm not. I'm going to leave that there for now, and you'll see in the distill phase. So that is the end of the market phase for now. I've gone through every action that I can do. I took 2 cards from the market, from the basic market, which was a water and a mixed plant sugar. I also bought an ingredient from up here. Sorry, should we fill that? There we go, that sugar cane. So I also bought an ingredient from up there, and I bought a recipe as well. So that's my market phase done. As you can see now on the B deck, we have, now the market phase is finished, we have these little icons on here, and this is going to help me refresh the market once the market phase is done. As you can see on here, there are 3 rows, they represent the 3 rows at the top. What you do is you take the first card off, or the top card, you have a look at the one below. So this is asking me to refresh the 3rd card on the 1st row, the 2nd card on the 2nd row, and the 1st and 3rd card on the 3rd row. So if we go up to the market here, it says refresh the 1st card. So we move that there into the truck, we move these to the right, and we draw a new card. There we go. And when you move cards from the market, you always move everything to the right. This one is remove the 2nd card on the 2nd row, move that to the right, and bring out that. And then the 3rd one, it says here, is the 1st and 3rd cards. So we remove those, 1st and 3rd, move everything to the right, and there we go. And that is the market refresh phase done. I've done absolutely everything I can do now in terms of refreshing the market and my market phase. It's now time to distill and to find out whether I can actually make the goods and make the spirits I want to make. The distilling phase is one of my favourite parts of the game, and I think it's something fairly unique which makes the game a real joy to play. It's a bit of an unknown element, because what you're going to do is, I know I did this a little bit earlier, but you would add 1 alcohol for every sugar that you've got in there, and then you will put all these cards, bring all these cards together. So in here I have an alcohol, I have a water, I have a plant-based sugar, and I have a yeast, and I'm going to shuffle these basically. And I'm going to create my distilling stack, and this is where it starts to get a little bit hairy, because I want to make, as I mentioned, kashaka, and in my kashaka I've got to at least have a plant base come out. So once you've shuffled all the cards, there we go, you then remove the top and the bottom card from the stack and you put them back in your pantry. So what have we got here? Oh no, it's water. And it's my mixed plant-based sugar. That means I cannot make my kashaka. Does not matter, because what I've got is alcohol and yeast. And if we look here, it says that if I was to make vodka, I would need any one kind of any one sugar in a metal barrel. To make moonshine, I need nothing basically, and that's your default position and a metal barrel. You see what I've got here is in your starting items a metal barrel. So I place all that together with the correct bottle, and it's going in a glass bottle, and that is my stack ready to kind of sell in the next round. So I've made moonshine. I wanted to make kashaka, I've made moonshine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a moonshine tab from up here. There we go, that's one of these, yeah, and I'm going to put it on one of these on my board. And it depends what I want to do. So say for example, I want to get a free recipe, or I want to get a free item, or I want to get a free upgrade or a free ingredient, and I kind of want a free ingredient basically. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place my moonshine on my player board, and I'm going to take a free ingredient from the top board. I know that to make my signature dish, my signature recipe, I need a sugarcane plant. So I can take that sugarcane from there, and I get it for free because of where I put that, and I'm going to put it into my pantry, move everything to the right, and do that there. Yeah, okay, so made moonshine. Yeah, it hasn't exactly kind of gone my way so far. I've not managed to make the kashaka. So that's the distill phase done. Yeah, that's not gone great. However, it's not the end of the world. We're now going into the sell phase. So we're now going to sell our recipe. So what you do is you lay all of the cards out and you have a look at how many points or victory points or cash this has got me. So I know that this is in a glass bottle, so that's going to get me 1 point. That's in a metal barrel, that's going to get me, 1 coin. That's in a metal barrel, it's going to get me another point. That's also got alcohol in it, which is going to get me another coin. So that's 3 coins definitely from there. If we look at Joanna's special ability, it says sell each non-aged spirit for 1 more. So that's 4 coins I've got. Then if we look down here on the chart at moonshine, it says here moonshine, I'm going to get 2 coins and 1 victory point. So that's a total of 6 coins I'm going to get. And I'm going to get 1 victory point, so I'm going to move my barrel 1 up on the scoreboard up there. So I'm off. I've got 6 victory points, but not great. Now, so what I'm going to do with these is my starting items go back into my storeroom, which is there. Yeast is going to go back onto there, and the alcohol card is going to go into there. So end of round 1. As you can see, it can go fairly quickly. Well, there is another phase to this as well, that if I was aging stuff, I would then add a flavour card down into my warehouse down here, into whatever's in the warehouse. I'm not aging anything, there's only certain spirits that you actually age. So, end of round 1, I bought a recipe, I bought some stuff, I tried to make kashaka. I couldn't make kashaka, but I come out of the back end of it with 6 coins and a victory point, and I'm very well placed with this sugar cane to start thinking about making my signature recipe for my next round. So what we'll do is we'll move the round tracker onto round 2, and then you go again. I haven't actually hit anything here yet in terms of my objectives. Remember, my objectives were to either collect 2 different spirit labels, which I'll probably do on the next round, or to earn 8 SP or more in a single round. Well, I earned 1, so I didn't achieve that. Had I achieved that, I could have marked that off with a coin there, flipped over the next 2 above there, just move my little marker up, and that would have then given me my next row of objectives I could do, which would be to collect spirit labels from 2 different regions or earn $8 or more in a round. And that is a single round of Distilled. So there we go, that is an overview and kind of a first round playthrough of Distilled, designed by Dave Beck with a solo mode by David Digby, and of course being published by Paverson Games. Like, of course, I haven't touched on many aspects here. I haven't touched on how you upgrade your distillery, what happens there. I haven't touched on fully making the signature recipe, or some of the more complex recipes, or the nuances of moving up that solo objective track, because I think what David Digby's done here is he's managed to create a solo mode which perfectly weaves its way into the multiplayer experience. You see, when I first got the game, I played it 2-handed solo as a multiplayer game. And player interaction isn't massive in the game. You know, you may take the odd market item deck to steal something from your competitors, or depending on how many spirit tokens are up there, you may steal the last of a particular spirit token. So player interactive isn't massive, and that plays as a bonus for the solo game. And the real challenge in moving up this pyramid is understanding which paths you can move up as well, and how you get to move up those paths. There's also an additional, in the solo game, an additional kind of bonus here that you can do if you get your spirit label. It's a solo goal swap card, which says when claiming the leftmost bonus, you may also swap any 2 solo goal cards within the same row. So you can move your bonus card, your solo objective cards around with that once per game. The solo mode really, really works. It creates a really hefty challenge. I think I beat it once or maybe twice in terms of managing to get the right objectives and the right number of points, but because of how the game flows, it provides a challenge. It's a dynamic game, and there's not a necessarily obvious or easy path to victory in any game. I think what I really, really, really like about Distilled is it's one of the best designed games I've come across. What Dave Beck's done is he's managed to, through his kind of research and through his various iterations of this, is get rid of anything that would feel extraneous in this. There's nothing that doesn't make sense thematically, doesn't link into the game, doesn't make it a challenge for you, and I really, really, really like this. It's a wonderfully designed game where theme comes through in every aspect of it. Look, you know, for me, it's like Dave Beck reached inside my head and designed the perfect game for me, combining my love of kind of medium weight, thinky Euro games with a great single malt. So when I knew I was getting a copy through, I knew about the game, I was prepared to be maybe disappointed in some way, and in thinking that, you know, there were going to be some flab here. There is no flab. This solo game plays in round about an hour thereabouts and provides this wonderful challenge all the time. I say everything makes perfect sense as you're going through the game. The ability or the mechanism where you are shuffling that deck of ingredients to make your recipes is a fantastic idea, because nothing is given in there. You can strategize as much as you want, but by shuffling and discarding the top and the bottom card, then you are running the risk that your recipe is going to fail. And of course, in manufacturing, recipes fail. They don't work out that way, and that is replicated in here. There is nothing that doesn't feel just so wonderful in this. I understand that maybe that slightly random element may not work for some people, and that's okay, but for me that absolutely scratches an itch on both sides of playing Euros and obviously more chance-based games as well. I think the game length is absolutely perfect for what it needs to be. As I say, I played it two-handed against myself, I've also played it solo as well, and the game plays fairly similar time. There's not a massive amount of downtime if you're going to be playing with other people. You could teach the game in round about 10 minutes flat. It's an easy game to get to grips with, but do not mistake easy for being and light for being a disadvantage here, because what you have here is almost a perfect entry level medium thinky Euro game, if you like, or a medium strategy game, and I think that's really good. You feel like you're achieving here. It is so well designed. It is one of the best designed games that I've ever played, certainly in its current form. And the solo mode by David Digby is one of the best, most integrated solo modes that you can get. It really works for this game. So for me, Distilled is just an outright success. I do not want to pass this game on to the next reviewer. And I know I'm going to have to wait a long time, wait an amount of time for the Kickstarter to be fulfilled as well. I've played this more than a dozen times, and every time I play it, I have a great experience. I played it late at night, pouring myself a glass of whiskey, and for an hour or so, I'm just lost in the world of distilling. It is a fantastic game. So, this game, Distilled, designed by Dave Beck, the solo mode by David Digby, published by Paverson Games, comes to Kickstarter on the 6th of July. If this looks like it's of any interest to you whatsoever, and in reality, it should be of interest to most people, and check out the link in the Kickstarter below. I think, thinking about this in terms of who it may not be for, given the theme and the fact, you're distilling alcohol, may not necessarily be a family type game, depending on the age of your children, and also depending on your views on alcohol as well. And what this does, same as with Vinos and same as with viticulture, is it doesn't glorify alcohol. I think that's a really important aspect here. This is about the magical process of making distilled liquors and spirits. It's not about being fun time Bobby and getting drunk and overdoing things. And I think that's a really important point to kind of note here, is it's not a glorification of the output of alcohol, it's a glorification of the wonderful mastery and magic in creating spirits. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey through Distilled by Dave Beck, designed by Dave Beck, with the solo mode by David Digby, and the artwork by Eric Evanson, published by Paverson Games, coming to Kickstarter on the 6th of July. Make sure you back this game as a solo player. If you're going to play it with other people, it's a game not to be missed. My name's Mark, this is Not Board Gaming. Thanks again for joining me on this. Please remember you can like and subscribe to the channel, check out our other videos, and one final thought. If you can't find anyone else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye bye.